The sleek, angular lines of the alien exploration vessel glided silently through the vastness of space, its advanced propulsion systems carrying it deeper into the uncharted territories beyond the borders of the Hyrakian Empire. On the bridge, Commander Gailoff gazed intently at the sensor readings displayed across the curved holographic displays, his reptilian features set in a contemplative expression. For the past solar cycle, his crew had detected faint energy signatures emanating from a distant star system, one that did not match any recorded in their extensive databases. Intrigued, Gailoff had convinced his superiors to authorize this scouting mission, promising the potential discovery of a rich, untapped world ripe for colonization and exploitation. "Captain, we're approaching the outer edges of the system," reported the navigator, her tentacles dancing across the control panels. "Scanners are picking up a Class M planet in the habitable zone of the primary star." Gailoff's scaled brow ridges rose in fascination. "Excellent. Begin detailed scans immediately. I want a full report on the planet's composition, atmosphere, and any signs of technological development." As the ship's advanced sensors probed the distant world, Gailoff's mind raced with possibilities. If this planet supported an indigenous civilization, even a primitive one, it would make an ideal staging ground for further expansion of the empire. The prospect of subjugating a new species and adding their resources to the Hyrakian war machine sent a thrill of anticipation through the commander. After several tense minutes, the chief science officer's voice cut through the bridge's hum of activity. "Sir, initial scans are complete. The planet appears to be Class M, with a breathable nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere. However," the officer paused, a note of uncertainty creeping into his tone. Gailoff's eyes narrowed. "However, what?" "Spit it out, Zelok." "Well, sir, the planet displays an unexpectedly high level of technological development. We're detecting large-scale industrial complexes, extensive transportation networks, and what appear to be heavily armed orbital defense platforms." The commander's scaled jaw tightened. "Impossible. This world should be inhabited by a primitive, unorganized species, barely out of their planetary cradle. Are you certain your readings are accurate?" Zelok nodded grimly. "Positive, sir. The energy signatures and emissions from the planet's surface are far beyond what we would expect from a pre-spaceflight civilization. Something is not right here." Gailoff's clawed hands gripped the arms of his command chair as he considered this new information. His original plan had been to make first contact, assess the natives' technological and military capabilities, and then determine the best course of action, whether that be peaceful coexistence, subjugation, or outright annihilation. But this unexpected development complicated matters significantly. "Helm, bring us in closer, but maintain a safe distance. I want a more detailed analysis of that planet's defenses." He turned to Zelok, his reptilian eyes narrowing. "And continue your scans. I want to know every inch of that world's surface, every city, every military installation. There must be an explanation for this." As the sleek alien vessel glided cautiously towards the distant orb, Gailoff's mind raced with possibilities. Perhaps this was simply an anomaly, an outlier that did not fit the established patterns of galactic civilizational development. Or perhaps, and this thought filled him with a mixture of trepidation and dark anticipation, the inhabitants of this world had managed to achieve a level of technological sophistication that rivaled, or even surpassed, that of the Hyrakian Empire itself. If that were the case, then the stakes had just been raised considerably. No longer would this be a simple matter of conquest and subjugation. This would be a clash of titans, a battle for supremacy in the stars. And Gailoff, ever the ambitious commander, could not help but feel a surge of eagerness at the prospect. As the planet's surface came into clearer focus on the view screen, Gailoff leaned forward in his chair, his clawed fingers drumming against the armrests. "Helm, bring us into a high orbit. Let us get a better look at our potential adversaries." The alien vessel gracefully maneuvered into position, its advanced sensor arrays trained on the world below. Xyloth watched intently as the data flowed across the displays, his mind processing the implications of what he was seeing. Vast, sprawling cities dotted the surface, linked by intricate networks of roads and railways. Immense industrial complexes belched plumes of steam and energy, while military installations bristled with advanced weaponry. And in orbit, just as Zelok had reported, a formidable array of defensive platforms, heavily armored, bristling with energy cannons and missile batteries. Xyloth's scaled lips curled into a faint predatory smile. So the inhabitants of this world are not as primitive as we had assumed. They have managed to develop a level of technology that rivals our own. Interesting. He turned to his officers, his expression hardening. Prepare a full report for transmission back to the homeworld. I will not underestimate this world again. If the Iraqian Empire is to expand its borders, we must be ready to face whatever challenges await us here. With a flick of his clawed hand, Xyloth dismissed his crew, already lost in thought as he contemplated the next steps. This was no longer a simple matter of conquest. This was a potential clash of civilizations, a test of his strategic acumen and the might of the empire he served. And Xyloth, ever the ambitious commander, was more than ready to meet the challenge head-on. The sleek alien vessel glided gracefully into a high orbit around the distant planet, its advanced sensor arrays scanning the surface in meticulous detail. Commander Xyloth watched the displays intently, his scaled brow furrowed in a mixture of fascination and trepidation. The data streaming in from the planet below was both impressive and deeply unsettling. The level of technological sophistication on display was far beyond what the Iraqian commander had anticipated, challenging the very assumptions he had brought with him to this uncharted system. "Sir, we're detecting multiple launch signatures from the planet's surface," Zelok reported, his tentacles dancing across the sensor controls. Energy readings indicate large-scale missile and plasma cannon emplacements, as well as what appear to be orbital defense platforms locking onto our position. Xyloth's scaled lips tightened into a thin line. Shields to maximum. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. He leaned forward in his chair, his reptilian eyes narrowing. So, the inhabitants of this world are not as docile as we had presumed. Time to see the true extent of their defenses. The alien vessel banked sharply as a barrage of energy beams and missile contrails streaked towards it. The pilot's reflexes honed by countless training exercises. Xyloth gripped the armrests of his chair, his clawed fingers digging into the unyielding material as the ship shuddered under the impacts. Hull integrity at 87% and holding, the chief engineer reported, his voice betraying a note of strain. But we can't sustain this kind of assault for long. Our shields are being overwhelmed. Xyloth's jaws tightened as he watched the battle unfold on the view screen. The defensive emplacements on the planet below were coordinating their fire with ruthless efficiency, their shots finding weak points in the alien ship's defenses with alarming precision. This was no hastily assembled collection of primitive weapons, but a well-designed, integrated system of immense power and sophistication. Helm, get us out of here. Maximum thrust, set a course for the outer system, the commander ordered, his voice tinged with a rare hint of urgency. As the alien vessel peeled away, its engines straining to break free of the planet's gravity well, Xyloth's mind raced. This was no simple setback, no minor inconvenience to be brushed aside. His initial assessment of this world and its inhabitants had been grievously mistaken, and the consequences of that error were now painfully apparent. The alien ship shuddered again as another volley of plasma beams and missile contrails streaked past, some finding their mark and scoring deep gashes in the hull. Xyloth gritted his teeth, his clawed hands clenching the armrests until the material creaked in protest. "Damage report," he snapped. "Aft thrusters are crippled, sir," the chief engineer replied, his voice tense. "We've lost a third of our shield capacity, and the hull breaches are starting to affect our life support systems. At this rate, we won't make it to the outer system." Xyloth's reptilian eyes narrowed as he considered their predicament. Retreat was no longer an option. The planet's defenders had them in their sights, and they would not be allowed to escape unscathed. His original plan of a cautious, prodding first contact had been shattered, replaced by a desperate fight for survival. "Helm, bring us about. We'll have to fight our way through." The navigator's tentacles froze on the controls, her eyes wide with alarm. "Sir, that's suicide. Our weapons systems are no match for the planet's defenses. We'll be torn apart." Psylloth's scaled brow ridges lowered, his expression hardening. "I will not run from these primitives. The Xerakian Empire does not retreat in the face of adversity." He turned to the weapons officer, his voice laced with steel. "Arm all remaining weapons systems. Target the largest defense installations and fire at will." The alien vessel banked sharply, its scared hull facing the planet once more. Psylloth braced himself as the ship's powerful cannons unleashed a barrage of energy beams and missile swarms, the weapons streaking towards the distant surface. But before the projectiles could reach their targets, the planet's defenses sprang into action. Vast energy shields flared to life, intercepting the attacks with ease, while a hail of plasma bolts and missile contrails lanced out towards the alien craft. Psylloth watched in a mixture of awe and horror as the Xerakian vessel was battered by the planet's overwhelming firepower. Consoles exploded, sending showers of sparks across the bridge, and the hull groaned under the strain. Hull integrity at 42% and falling. The chief engineer reported, his voice tinged with desperation. "We can't take much more of this." Psylloth's clawed hands gripped the armrests of his chair, his reptilian eyes narrowing as he watched the battle unfold. This was no longer a contest of conquest, but a struggle for survival. The inhabitants of this world had proven themselves to be far more than mere primitives. They were a force to be reckoned with, their technological might a formidable shield against the Xerakian invaders. As the alien vessel limped away, its thrusters straining, Psylloth knew that his original assessment had been catastrophically wrong. This was no easy target, no world ripe for the taking. These were adversaries worthy of the Xerakian Empire's attention, and he had underestimated them at his peril. With a grim determination, Psylloth turned to his officers, his voice low and resolute. "Inform the homeworld of what has transpired here. We will return, with a force strong enough to break these defenders and bring this world under Xerakian rule. This is not over." As the alien ship disappeared into the depths of space, leaving the battered world behind, Psylloth knew that the next encounter would be a battle for supremacy, one that he was determined to win, no matter the cost. The bridge of the Xerakian flagship was eerily silent as Commander Psylloth finished relaying his report. The alien officers, their reptilian features etched with a mixture of disbelief and frustration, sat in stunned silence, struggling to process the implications of what they had just heard. After several tense moments, the deep, resonant voice of Admiral Thraxus rumbled through the communications channel. "So let me understand this. Psylloth, you are telling us that a primitive backwater world, one that was not even on our charts, managed to repel your invasion force with relative ease." Psylloth's scaled brow furrowed as he responded, his voice measured and controlled. "That is correct, Admiral. The level of technological sophistication displayed by the planet's defenders was unexpected. Their orbital defense platforms and coordinated ground-based weaponry overwhelmed our ship's defenses with ease." Thraxus let out a derisive snort. "Impossible. Our vessels are the most advanced in the known galaxy. How could a mere collection of primitives best the might of the Xerakian Empire?" The commander's clawed fingers drummed against the armrest of his chair as he considered his response. "I believe the planet has been recently colonized by a more technologically advanced alien race, one that has not yet made its presence known to the wider galaxy." Thraxus's reptilian eyes narrowed. "That is a convenient excuse, Psylloth. You were sent to assess the planet's potential for conquest, not to be turned away by some upstart colonists." His voice hardened. "I will not tolerate such failures. The Xyrakian Empire does not retreat in the face of adversity. Xyloth's scaled jaw tightened. I understand your frustration, Admiral. But I assure you, this was no simple setback. The planet's defenses were unlike anything we have encountered before. We were outmatched, outgunned, and forced to retreat to avoid total annihilation. The Admiral's taloned fingers drummed against the arm of his throne, his expression unreadable. Be that as it may, Xyloth, I cannot accept such a humiliating defeat. The Xyrakian Empire's reputation is at stake. We must show these interlopers the true might of our civilization. Xyloth nodded, his mind already racing with strategies and contingencies. I agree, Admiral. But we must approach this with caution. Underestimating our opponents once has already proven disastrous. If we are to conquer this world, we will need to assemble a force capable of overwhelming its defenses. Thraxus leaned forward, his reptilian eyes glinting with a predatory gleam. Then that is precisely what you will do, Xyloth. Gather a fleet of our most advanced warships, our most skilled commanders, and our most devastating weaponry. I want this planet reduced to ashes, its defenders crushed beneath the might of the Xyrakian Empire. The commander nodded, his mind already whirling with the logistics of assembling such a formidable invasion force. It will be done, Admiral. I will not rest until this world, and its insolent defenders, have been brought to heel. As the communication channel closed, Xyloth turned to his officers, his expression grim. Prepare a full report detailing the planet's defenses and strategic vulnerabilities. We leave no stone unturned. I want to know every inch of that world, every military installation, every power source, every potential weakness. The alien officers sprang into action, their tentacles dancing across the control panels as they compiled the necessary data. Xyloth watched them intently, his scaled brow furrowed in concentration. This was no longer a simple matter of conquest. The inhabitants of this distant world had proven themselves to be far more than mere primitives, their technological prowess a formidable shield against the Xyrakian onslaught. Xyloth knew that underestimating them again would be a fatal mistake. As the report began to take shape, the commander's clawed fingers drummed against the armrest of his chair, his mind racing with strategies and contingencies. He would need to assemble the finest fleet the Xyrakian Empire had to offer, a force capable of overwhelming the planet's defenses and crushing its defenders into submission. But even as he planned his next move, a part of Xyloth couldn't help but feel a twinge of respect for these unexpected adversaries. Their resilience, their ingenuity, and their sheer technological might were qualities he had not anticipated, and he found himself curious to learn more about them. Who were these beings, these humans as they called themselves, who had managed to develop such advanced technology and weaponry in the relative isolation of their backwater world? What drove them to defend their home with such fierce determination? And what other surprises might they have in store for the Xyrakian invaders? As the data continued to flow across the displays, Xyloth's scaled lips curled into a faint, predatory smile. This was no longer just a matter of conquest. It was a challenge, a test of his strategic acumen, and the might of the Xyrakian Empire. And he was more than ready to meet it head-on. The vast armada of Xyrakian warships emerged from the swirling vortex of a hyperdimensional rift, their sleek, angular hulls gleaming in the light of the distant sun. At their center, the flagship of Admiral Thraxus led the charge, its formidable arsenal of plasma cannons, particle beams, and missile batteries primed and ready for battle. For months, the Xyrakian Empire had poured vast resources into assembling this invasion force, determined to crush the insolent defenders of the distant human world and bring their planet under the dominion of the Empire. Nothing would be left to chance this time. The full might of the Xyrakian military machine had been unleashed, poised to overwhelm the planet's defenses with sheer, unbridled force. As the alien armada approached the Earth, the planet's orbital defense platforms sprang to life, their sensors detecting the invading ships with unerring precision. Across the globe, military command centers burst into a flurry of activity, coordinating the deployment of ground-based missile batteries, plasma cannons, and particle beam emplacements. At the heart of this defensive network stood Dr. Sarah Johnson, a brilliant astrophysicist-turned-military strategist who had been instrumental in the development of Earth's advanced space-based defenses. Her keen intellect and unwavering determination had been instrumental in preparing the planet for the coming onslaught, and she now watched the unfolding battle with a mixture of grim resolve and cautious optimism. "All units, stand by," she ordered, her voice calm and steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Let them come to us. We'll show these alien invaders the true might of humanity." The Xyrakian fleet surged forward, its powerful engines propelling the warships towards the planet's surface. Thraxis, his reptilian eyes narrowed with a mixture of anticipation and contempt, raised a clawed hand, signaling the order to commence the bombardment. "Unleash the full might of the Xyrakian Empire," he roared, his voice echoing across the bridge of the flagship. "Reduce this pathetic world to ashes." At his command, the alien vessels opened fire, their devastating weapons batteries unleashing a torrential barrage of plasma beams, particle bolts, and missile swarms that streaked towards the Earth below. The planet's surface erupted in a dazzling display of light and energy as the defensive systems sprang into action, intercepting the incoming projectiles with a coordinated, organized fury. Dr. Johnson watched the battle unfold, her brow furrowed in concentration as she directed the coordinated response of Earth's military forces. Missile batteries, their targeting systems honed to perfection, unleashed a withering hail of anti-ship munitions that tore through the Xyrakian fleet, while plasma cannons and particle beam emplacements pounded the invading ships with devastating precision. The alien vessels, caught off guard by the ferocity of the human counterattack, struggled to maintain their cohesion as their shields were overwhelmed and their hulls breached. One by one, the Xyrakian warships were systematically destroyed, their fragments raining down upon the planet's surface like a cosmic hailstorm. Thraxis, his scaled features twisted in a mask of fury and disbelief, slammed his fist against the arm of his command chair. "Impossible! How can these primitives possess such advanced weaponry?" Xyloth, his reptilian eyes narrowed, turned to the Admiral, his voice tinged with a hint of grim resignation. "I warned you, Thraxis. These humans are no mere primitives. Their technological capabilities have surpassed our expectations, and their determination to defend their home is unbreakable." The Admiral's taloned fingers clenched into fists as he watched his once mighty fleet being systematically dismantled by the planet's defenders. "Then we shall simply overwhelm them with sheer numbers and firepower. Dispatch the remainder of our forces. Let nothing stand in our way." But even as the Xyrakian reinforcements joined the fray, their concentrated assault proved no match for the well-coordinated, multi-layered defenses of the human world. Plasma beams and particle bolts sliced through the alien vessels with ruthless efficiency, while swarms of anti-ship missiles tore them apart with devastating precision. Dr. Johnson, her eyes narrowed in steely determination, directed the ebb and flow of the battle with the calm authority of a seasoned strategist. "All units, maintain your positions. Do not let a single enemy vessel through. We will not rest until every last one of them is destroyed." As the Xyrakian fleet was slowly but surely decimated, Thraxis and Xyloth could only watch in mounting horror and disbelief. Their confidence, their arrogance, their certainty of victory, all of it had been shattered by the unwavering resolve and technological prowess of this seemingly insignificant world. "Retreat," Thraxis bellowed, his voice tinged with a rare note of panic. "All ships, fall back. We cannot sustain these losses." The battered Xyrakian vessels, their hulls scared and their shields depleted, turned and fled, their engines straining to escape the deadly fury of the human defenders. As they disappeared into the depths of space, Dr. Johnson let out a long, slow breath, her shoulders sagging with a mixture of relief and exhaustion. "They won't give up so easily," she murmured, her gaze fixed on the retreating alien ships. "But we've bought ourselves some time. We must redouble our efforts, strengthen our defenses, and prepare for the next assault." For the people of Earth, the battle had been won, but the war had only just begun. And as they stood united against the might of the Hyrakian Empire, they knew that their fight for survival was far from over. The Hyrakian flagship emerged from the swirling vortex of the hyperdimensional rift, its once sleek hull scarred and battered from the fierce battle with the human defenders. Admiral Thraxus paced the length of the bridge, his scaled features etched with a mixture of fury and disbelief. The once mighty invasion force that had set out to crush the upstart inhabitants of the distant human world lay in ruins, its shattered remnants limping back to the Hyrakian homeworld in disgrace. Thyloth, the commander who had initially led the attack, stood silently at the edge of the bridge, his reptilian eyes downcast, knowing that he would face harsh consequences for his failure. "Unacceptable," Thraxus growled, his taloned fingers drumming against the arm of his command chair. "This is a humiliation the Hyrakian Empire cannot afford. Those humans," he spat the word with undisguised contempt, "have made a mockery of our might." Xyloth stepped forward, his voice measured and controlled. "Admiral, I warned you that we were underestimating the technological capabilities of this world. Their defenses were far more advanced than we had anticipated." Thraxus whirled on the commander, his reptilian eyes blazing with fury. "Excuses, Xyloth. Your failure has cost us dearly. Dozens of our finest warships, hundreds of our bravest warriors, all destroyed by those primitive upstarts." The commander lowered his gaze, his scaled brow furrowed. "I take full responsibility for my miscalculations, Admiral. But I believe we now have a clearer understanding of the threat we face. With the proper preparations, we can overcome these humans and bring their world under Hyrakian rule." The Admiral's clawed hands clenched into fists, his scales rippling with the intensity of his emotions. "Preparations? You speak as if there is any doubt that we will crush these insolent defenders. The Hyrakian Empire does not retreat in the face of adversity. We will return, with a force strong enough to obliterate every last one of them." Xyloth nodded, his expression grim. "Then that is precisely what we must do, Admiral. We cannot afford to underestimate our opponents again. This will require meticulous planning, the deployment of our most advanced technologies, and the commitment of our greatest military assets." Thraxus narrowed his eyes, his taloned fingers drumming against the armrest of his chair. "So be it. Gather our most brilliant scientific minds, our most skilled tacticians, and our most devastating weapons. I want every last detail of this world's defenses analyzed, every weakness identified, every strategy scrutinized." The commander bowed his head, his scaled brow furrowed in concentration. "It will be done, Admiral. We will not rest until the human world has been brought to heel, its defenders crushed beneath the might of the Hyrakian Empire." As Xyloth turned to relay the orders to the rest of the fleet, Thraxus leaned back in his chair, his reptilian eyes reflecting the flickering lights of the bridge consoles. The humiliation of their defeat weighed heavily upon him, but beneath the surface, a burning desire for vengeance had taken root. These humans, this insignificant world, had dared to defy the Hyrakian Empire, the mightiest civilization in the known galaxy. They had struck a blow to the very heart of the Empire's pride and reputation, and Thraxus would not rest until they had been utterly destroyed. The Admiral's clawed fingers clenched the armrests of his chair, his scaled features set in a mask of grim determination. "We will return, with a force powerful enough to crush every last one of them. The Hyrakian Empire does not forgive, and it does not forget. These humans will learn the true cost of defying us." As the fleet set a course for the Hyrakian homeworld, Thraxus and Xyloth began the process of assembling the mightiest invasion force the galaxy had ever seen. They would leave no stone unturned, no resource untapped, in their quest to conquer the distant human world and bring its defiant inhabitants to their knees. For the Hyrakian Empire, this was no longer just a matter of expansion or resource acquisition. It had become a battle for pride, for supremacy, and for the very survival of their civilization. The stakes had been raised, and the Hyrakians were determined to emerge victorious, no matter the cost. As the fleet disappeared into the depths of space, the human world below remained vigilant, its people steeling themselves for the inevitable return of the alien invaders. They knew that the fight was far from over, and that the next battle would be the fiercest of all. But in the hearts of the human defenders, a new sense of purpose had been kindled, a determination to protect their home, their way of life, and their very existence against the relentless onslaught of the Hyrakian Empire. They would not back down, they would not surrender, and they would not be defeated. The stage was set for the ultimate clash of civilizations, a conflict that would determine the fate of both worlds, and the victor would be the one who refused to yield. News of Earth's unexpected victory against the Hyrakian invasion force spread like wildfire through the galactic community, inspiring awe, hope, and no small measure of trepidation. For centuries, the Hyrakian Empire had been the dominant power in the known universe, its technological and military might unmatched by any other civilization. Yet this unassuming, isolated world had not only withstood the initial onslaught, but had utterly decimated the invading fleet, shattering the Empire's reputation for invincibility. On Earth, the people celebrated their triumph with a mixture of relief, pride, and a profound sense of unease. They knew that the Hyrakians would not take this defeat lightly, and that the alien conquerors would return with an even more formidable force, determined to crush the upstart defenders and bring their world under Hyrakian rule. In the command centers and research laboratories scattered across the globe, a renewed sense of urgency took hold. Under the steadfast leadership of Dr. Sarah Johnson, the world's top scientific and military minds redoubled their efforts to bolster Earth's defenses, knowing that time was of the essence. "We've bought ourselves some breathing room, but it won't last," Dr. Johnson said, her brow furrowed in concentration as she pored over the latest intelligence reports. "The Hyrakians will be back, and they won't stop until they've wiped us off the face of the galaxy." Her colleagues nodded grimly, their fingers flying across holographic displays as they analyzed data, ran simulations, and devised new strategies to counter the impending alien onslaught. "We need to strengthen our orbital defenses, improve the coordination of our ground-based weapon systems, and explore the development of even more advanced technologies," one of the lead engineers proposed, his voice tinged with a sense of urgency. Dr. Johnson nodded, her expression resolute. "Agreed. And we must also expand our research into exotic energy sources, advanced propulsion systems, and innovative defensive countermeasures. The Hyrakians have had centuries to refine their technology. We need to catch up, and quickly." Across the globe, the people of Earth rallied behind their defenders, offering their time, skills, and resources to support the monumental task at hand. Manufacturing facilities worked around the clock to produce the components necessary for the expanding military infrastructure, while scientists and engineers toiled ceaselessly in their laboratories, pushing the boundaries of human innovation. Even as the world's economies struggled to cope with the strain of the impending conflict, the people remained steadfast in their determination to protect their home. They had tasted the bitter reality of invasion, and they would not be cowed by the might of the Hyrakian Empire. "We will not surrender," Dr. Johnson declared, her voice ringing with conviction as she addressed the world's leaders. "This is our home, our civilization, and we will defend it to the last. The Hyrakians may have the advantage in numbers and firepower, but we have something far more powerful, an unbreakable spirit and an unwavering will to survive." Her words were met with thunderous applause and a renewed sense of purpose that swept across the planet. From the bustling megacities to the remote outposts, the people of Earth stood united, ready to face the challenge that lay ahead. As the months passed, the world's defenses grew stronger, more resilient, and more deadly. Orbital platforms bristled with advanced weaponry, their targeting systems honed to perfection. Ground-based missile batteries, plasma cannons, and particle beam emitters were deployed in ever-increasing numbers, their crews trained to react with lightning-fast precision. And in the laboratories, the scientists and engineers continued to push the boundaries of human ingenuity, developing exotic energy sources, revolutionary propulsion systems, and cutting-edge defensive technologies that would give the human defenders an edge against the Hyrrachian onslaught. Dr. Johnson watched the progress with a mixture of pride and trepidation, knowing that the ultimate test was yet to come. The Hyrrachians would return, and when they did, the fate of the human world would hang in the balance. "We're ready," she murmured, her gaze fixed on the distant stars. "We may not have the numbers or the raw firepower, but we have something the Hyrrachians can never take from us: the determination to protect our home, no matter the cost." As the human world braced itself for the inevitable clash, the people drew strength from the knowledge that they were not alone. News of their defiance had inspired hope and admiration among the subjugated worlds of the Hyrrachian Empire, and whispers of possible alliances and coordinated resistance began to circulate through the galactic community. The stage was set for the ultimate battle, a conflict that would determine the fate of two civilizations, and the victors would be the ones who refused to yield, no matter the cost. The vast armada of Hyrrachian warships emerged from the swirling vortex of the hyper-dimensional rift, their sleek, angular hulls gleaming ominously in the light of the distant sun. At their center, the flagship of Admiral Thraxus led the charge, its formidable arsenal of plasma cannons, particle beams, and missile batteries primed and ready for the impending battle. For months, the Hyrrachian Empire had poured immense resources into assembling this force, determined to crush the defiant defenders of the human world once and for all. This time, there would be no room for error, no opportunity for the upstart inhabitants to mount a successful defense. The full might of the Hyrrachian military machine had been unleashed, poised to overwhelm the planet's defenses with sheer, unbridled force. As the alien fleet surged towards the Earth, the planet's advanced detection systems sprang into action, their sensors tracking the invading ships with unwavering precision. Across the globe, military command centers burst into a flurry of activity, coordinating the deployment of ground-based weapon systems and the activation of the orbital defense platforms. At the heart of this defensive network, Dr. Sarah Johnson watched the unfolding battle with a mixture of grim resolve and cautious optimism. The months of preparation, the tireless efforts of the world's scientists and engineers, had all been leading to this moment. The Hyrrachians would not be caught off guard again. "All units, stand by," she ordered, her voice calm and steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Let them come to us. We'll show these alien invaders the true might of humanity." The Hyrrachian fleet surged forward, its powerful engines propelling the warships towards the planet's surface. Thraxus, his reptilian eyes blazing with a mixture of anticipation and contempt, raised a clawed hand, signaling the order to commence the bombardment. "Unleash the full fury of the Hyrrachian Empire," he roared, his voice echoing across the bridge of the flagship. "Reduce this pathetic world to ashes." At his command, the alien vessels opened fire, their devastating weapons batteries unleashing a torrential barrage of plasma beams, particle bolts, and missile swarms that streaked towards the Earth below. The planet's surface erupted in a dazzling display of light and energy as the defensive systems sprang into action, intercepting the incoming projectiles with a coordinated, organized fury. Dr. Johnson watched the battle unfold, her brow furrowed in concentration as she directed the combined efforts of Earth's military forces. Missile batteries, their targeting systems honed to perfection, unleashed a withering hail of anti-ship munitions that tore through the Hyrrachian fleet, while plasma cannons and particle beam emplacements pounded the invading ships with devastating precision. The alien vessels, caught off guard by the ferocity of the human counterattack, struggled to maintain their cohesion as their shields were overwhelmed and their hulls breached. One by one, the Hyrrachian warships were systematically destroyed, their fragments raining down upon the planet's surface like a cosmic hailstorm. Thraxus, his scaled features twisted in a mask of fury and disbelief, slammed his fist against the arm of his command chair. Impossible. How can these primitives possess such advanced weaponry? Xyloth, his reptilian eyes narrowed, turned to the Admiral, his voice tinged with a hint of grim resignation. I warned you, Thraxus. These humans are no mere primitives. Their technological capabilities have far surpassed our expectations, and their determination to defend their home is unbreakable. The Admiral's taloned fingers clenched into fists as he watched his once mighty fleet being systematically dismantled by the planet's defenders. Then we shall simply overwhelm them with sheer numbers and firepower. Dispatch the remainder of our forces. Let nothing stand in our way. But even as the Xyrakian reinforcements joined the fray, their concentrated assault proved no match for the well-coordinated, multi-layered defenses of the human world. Plasma beams and particle bolts sliced through the alien vessels with ruthless efficiency, while swarms of anti-ship missiles tore them apart with devastating precision. Dr. Johnson, her eyes narrowed in steely determination, directed the ebb and flow of the battle with the calm authority of a seasoned strategist. All units, maintain your positions. Do not let a single enemy vessel through. We will not rest until every last one of them is destroyed. As the Xyrakian fleet was slowly but surely decimated, Thraxus and Xyloth could only watch in mounting horror and disbelief. Their confidence, their arrogance, their certainty of victory, all of it had been shattered by the unwavering resolve and technological prowess of this seemingly insignificant world. Retreat, Thraxus bellowed, his voice tinged with a rare note of panic. All ships, fall back. We cannot sustain these losses. The battered Xyrakian vessels, their hulls scared and their shields depleted, turned and fled, their engines straining to escape the deadly fury of the human defenders. As they disappeared into the depths of space, Dr. Johnson let out a long, slow breath, her shoulders sagging with a mixture of relief and exhaustion. They won't give up so easily, she murmured, her gaze fixed on the retreating alien ships. But we've bought ourselves some time. We must redouble our efforts, strengthen our defenses, and prepare for the next assault. For the people of Earth, the battle had been won, but the war had only just begun. And as they stood united against the might of the Xyrakian Empire, they knew that their fight for survival was far from over. As the battered Xyrakian vessels disappeared into the depths of space, a deafening roar of triumph and celebration erupted across the cities and towns of Earth. The people who had endured the terror of the alien invasion and the uncertainty of the past months now reveled in the knowledge that their world had withstood the might of the Xyrakian Empire. Dr. Sarah Johnson, her expression one of grim satisfaction, watched the celebrations unfold from the command center, her mind already turning to the next challenge that lay ahead. While the human defenders had emerged victorious in this pivotal battle, she knew that the war was far from over. They won't give up so easily, she murmured, her gaze fixed on the distant stars. The Xyrakians will return, and when they do, we must be ready. Across the globe, the world's scientific and military leaders convened to assess the aftermath of the clash and to plan for the future. The damage to Earth's infrastructure was significant, with several orbital defense platforms and ground-based weapon systems in need of extensive repairs and upgrades. But the overall consensus was one of cautious optimism. The humans had proven their ability to withstand the Xyrakian onslaught, and they were determined to strengthen their defenses even further. Our people have shown remarkable courage and resilience, Dr. Johnson stated, addressing the assembled leaders. But we cannot afford to rest on our laurels. The Xyrakians will be back, and they will come with even greater force. We must continue to push the boundaries of our technology, to develop new and more powerful weapons, and to fortify our defenses in every way possible. The leaders nodded in agreement, their expressions resolute. They understood the gravity of the situation, the high stakes that hung in the balance. The fate of their world, their civilization, and their very existence depended on their ability to withstand the next Hyrrakian assault. In the months that followed, the human world became a hive of frenetic activity. Manufacturing facilities worked around the clock, churning out components for the ever-expanding network of orbital platforms, missile batteries, and particle beam emplacements. Scientists and engineers toiled ceaselessly in their laboratories, pushing the boundaries of their knowledge and skills to develop new, more powerful technologies. The people, too, remained steadfast in their support of the global defense effort, volunteering their time, skills, and resources to aid in the monumental task at hand. From the bustling metropolises to the remote outposts, a sense of unity and purpose permeated every corner of the planet, fueling the determination to protect their home from the alien invaders. As the Hyrrakian fleet regrouped and planned its next move, the human world continued to grow stronger, more resilient, and more deadly. Orbital platforms bristled with advanced weaponry, their targeting systems honed to perfection. Ground-based missile batteries, plasma cannons, and particle beam emitters were deployed in ever-increasing numbers, their crews trained to react with lightning-fast precision. And in the laboratories, the scientists and engineers continued to push the boundaries of human ingenuity, developing exotic energy sources, revolutionary propulsion systems, and cutting-edge defensive technologies that would give the human defenders an edge against the Hyrrakian onslaught. Finally, the day of reckoning arrived. The Hyrrakian fleet, its once mighty armada, reinforced with the most advanced warships and devastating weapons the Empire could muster, emerged from the swirling vortex of the hyperdimensional rift, their sights set firmly on the defiant human world. But this time, the people of Earth were ready. As the alien vessels surged forward, they were met with a barrage of overwhelming firepower, their shields and hulls breached by the relentless assault of the human defenders. The battle raged for days, with both sides unleashing their most devastating weapons: planet-cracking bombs, antimatter missiles, and devastating energy beams that tore through the void of space. Dr. Johnson, her expression etched with determination, directed the ebb and flow of the conflict, her keen intellect and strategic acumen guiding the human forces to victory. And as the last of the Hyrrakian vessels turned and fled, their hulls scared and their shields depleted, a sense of triumph and relief swept across the world. Jubilant celebrations erupted in the streets, with people from all walks of life coming together to commemorate their hard-won victory. The human defenders had stood their ground, their resolve unbreakable, and they had emerged victorious against the might of the Hyrrakian Empire. As the dust settled, Dr. Johnson turned her gaze to the stars, her expression pensive. She knew that this was not the end, that the Hyrrakians would not give up so easily. But for now, her world was safe, her people had proven their mettle, and the future of humanity had been secured. "We did it," she whispered, a faint smile playing on her lips. "We showed the Hyrrakians that we are not to be trifled with. And we will continue to fight, to defend our home, no matter the cost." With that, she turned and strode back into the command center, already planning for the next challenge that would undoubtedly come. For the people of Earth, the war was far from over, but they had taken a giant leap towards the ultimate victory, the preservation of their civilization and their way of life against all odds.